All right, folks. Again, thank you so much for joining our call this morning. I see our individuals are starting to log in. There's a lot on this call. Chris Davey, if you could unmute and let me know if President Johnson is on yet. I don't see her on my screen yet, but I've got 10 of them.
Yep. Hi, Jerry. Yeah, President Johnson is here. You can see her. So I think we're ready to roll here. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, everyone, thank you so much for being on. You know, this is the first introduction to President Johnson for many of you. She not only brings 30 years of unparalleled experience as a academic, business, and policy leader, but she also was a student athlete. She played field hockey at Stanford and was one of the founding members of the club lacrosse program there as well. And she has family ties to Ohio State. Her grandfather, who graduated from Ohio State in 1896, played on one of our early football teams. So President Johnson, welcome to the Zoom call. Welcome to Ohio State. And I'll open up the floor now for some opening comments for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jerry. And thank you everyone for being here today. You know, clearly it's a great day for Buckeye Nation. We are so excited for all Buckeye Nation and enthusiastically support the decision of the Big Ten Conference leadership to proceed with a fall season. This is what we've always wanted, is an opportunity for our student athletes to compete in the sports they love. And I would first like to thank my Big Ten colleagues and Commissioner Warren for their thoughtful deliberations. We studied how to create safe environments for our student athletes through the Return to Competition Task Force, including a medical subcommittee co-chaired by our very own Dr. Jim Borchers. The plan developed by the subcommittee provides for rigorous testing protocols to keep all our student athletes safe when they cannot social distance or wear masks. And this was crucial in reaching the unanimous decision for our football teams to return to competition and to have our athletic directors work with the coaches of all our fall sports to deliver schedules that will return them also to competition. I can't say enough about Dr. Borchers and his great work over the past month, which allowed us to make this data-informed decision. His subcommittee was thorough and always held the guiding principle of what is best for the health, wellness, and safety of our student athletes. I want to thank Athletic Director Gene Smith and Coach Ryan Day and all the coaches and athletes for their patience while a plan was developed to return to competition. It's a good plan. It'll take us forward in continuing to work together. It will take all of us to work together to execute it. And finally, I couldn't be prouder of our young men and women who have followed all the safety protocols, setting an example on our campuses for how we can move through this pandemic while keeping us all safe. The positivity rate of our students over the average over the last 7 days is 2.2%, after spiking to nearly 7% earlier this year. We still need to focus on wearing masks and physically social distancing off campus. Those rates continue to be higher. Just finally, I especially want to thank all our student athletes and their families for being patient. As Jerry said, I'm a former student athlete. I played in the late 70s and 80s, and I know what it's meant to my career 40 years later to sit in the chair because of the discipline and the leadership that these opportunities afforded me. And I want that for all of our students. So thank you. And to our students, faculty, and staff, thanks for all your hard work to stay safe. We got this together as Buckeyes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Johnson. I'm going to turn it over for some opening comments to Director of Athletics, Gene Smith now. Gene?
Well, thank you, Jerry. And let me first and foremost thank President Johnson to think of a president coming into significant responsibility and just leading The Ohio State University in normal times is a significant challenge. But to come in at a time of a pandemic of this nature and the social and justice issues that's plaguing our society and all the other issues that she inherited, to come in and deal with what we were dealing with in the athletic space is a daunting task, and she's been phenomenal. I can't thank her enough for her tireless work and effort to try and provide our student athletes an opportunity to come back and play the sport they love and And as you all know, as football goes, so do all of our other sports. And when you think about this moment in time, providing our football players the opportunity to return certainly is relief for all of our athletes because they now feel as though they can compete. And so I just want to thank her from the bottom of my heart on behalf of all of our student athletes, our coaches, our support staff, and all of Buckeye Nation for her tireless work in this effort. We're excited to return to play. We just feel fortunate that we were able to have the leadership that we had in Jim Borchers and Sandy Barber, the athletic director at Penn State, who did an unbelievable job in setting up the medical protocols that we will all employ as we move closer to competition. There's a great comfort level with the testing, the data transparency, addressing the contact tracing issues, and of course, the issues that could result after an individual is positive with COVID-19. Obviously, the cardiac issue was the one that was most prevalent, and the protocols in that space are just phenomenal. We're in a better place regardless of how we got here or how painful it was during the time that we waited to get to this moment. That's all behind us. What's beautiful is that we have a process and protocols in place that's based upon science, that's based upon lessons learned since August 11th. As you all know, I think there's somewhere around 12, 13 games that have been postponed as a result of COVID. And so we're hopeful with this path, this runway, and this pause that we've dealt with and what we've learned, that we might be in a position where we can continue to play. The daily testing that Dr. Borchers has talked about, assume you all paid attention to his comments on the Big Ten Network. They're significant, and that science has evolved. And so we're at a point now where we need to move forward and try and ultimately get to those protocols being in place. Our campuses, as we continue our skill instruction and strength and conditioning, we will continue on our campus protocols, which have been excellent for us at The Ohio State University because of our trainers and doctors and strength coaches and Dr. Borchers. We'll continue until we ultimately implement the Big Ten standards that you guys have all read about as those cascade into on our campuses. So tomorrow morning, as athletic directors, we'll begin the process with Barry's leadership and his football scheduling subcommittee to put together a schedule. 8 regular season games is our objective, with a 9th championship week game on the 19th, 18th, 19th of December. We're looking at a new model where one will play one from the East and the West as we have traditionally done. But we will provide that 9th game opportunity for the other teams, 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3, and so on and so forth. So we think it'll be unique and provide that 9-game competitive opportunity for our players. So that's what we're working on now, 4 at home, 4 away. We'll hopefully have by the end of the week or early next week at the latest a schedule that we can start to plan with. So just wanted to share those things, and I'll just open it up for questions from there.
Great. Thank you very much, Gene. We're going to open up right now with questions. First question, Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch with Dan Hope on deck. Bill?
Yes. For Dr. Johnson, first of all, nice to have you here. Thank you for talking with us. What was this process like for you to walk in as an incoming president, not just with COVID, but with this pressing issue, and you know how important football is to Ohio State and people here in Columbus and Ohio? What was that process like, and having to make that vote right away? That's my first question, I guess.
Right. Well, my first day officially on the job was September 1st, but in any transition, you come in and get to work. I think there's a great link between The processes and procedures we put in place in order to keep all our students safe and healthy, our students, faculty, and staff, and what we did in collaboration with Coach Ryan and our athletic director, Gene Smith. And that is, one of the guiding principles, always put the safety of the students first. And so guiding principle and everything falls out from there. So one of the things that we did pretty quickly, early in August, is we increased the number of tests. So we've done 61,000 tests to date. We're on a cadence of about 20,000 a week. So that really informed the ability to to understand how our athletic programs were really working hard to keep their student athletes safe. So I could understand that from having 30,000 students come back, 20,000 off campus, 10,000 on campus, to the smaller group that was being so beautifully executed in the athletic department. So there are learnings from both. And so it really was quite helpful to be able to learn from what the athletes and the coaches were doing and what we were doing at campus-wide.
Thank you. Next up is Dan Hope with 11 Warriors with Kyle Rowland on deck. Dan?
Thanks, Jerry. Gene, I wanted to ask you, obviously you've been on the college football playoff committee and you know how that works. And, a lot of people want to know, what Ohio State's chances are going to be, for competing for a national championship. How much does it worry you if there's kind of not a lot of margin for error here in terms of, the season starting later and shorter and not really much of a window to reschedule games?
Well, that's a great question. We're fortunate. As you shared, I was on the committee. Obviously, Barry Alvarez was on the committee, the first committee, and Gary Barter, the athletic director at Iowa, is currently on the committee. So we had some decent intel as we went through this process. So I'm really not as concerned. I feel confident that if every school embraces the protocols and if every school can, frankly, with all due respect, do what our student athletes have done, our football team has done, we should get to a point where we have a chance to have a clean, competitive field each Saturday. I think it's assumed by the committee and others that we may not have consistency in the number of games that a particular league will play. You might have some that have 8, some might have 9, somebody might only have 7, who knows? But I think that they understand that and they will develop criteria that will pay attention, I would assume, to first and foremost championships and then overall win-loss record. And I think this year may be a little bit more of trying to identify which team frankly has the best look about it, so to speak. I hate to say that, but I think that that's going to be something that's going to have to enter into it.
Thanks, Gene.
Next up, Kyle Rowland from the Toledo Blade with Nathan Baird on deck. Kyle?
I don't really know. Whoever wants to answer this can, between Gene and Kristina. The decision to not allow fans at games, just what was the thought process there? And was that like a compromise at all amongst the yes and no's from the original vote?
Well, I'll take a first part and then have Gene add. So part of the recommendations of the medical subcommittee was to limit the density of fans. And so that's a recommendation. If we continue to improve, have clean playing field, things develop in terms of our knowledge, there is a possibility that could be modified, but that would have to come back to the group, and we'd have to have really, again, data-informed scientific evidence that we can actually have fans and not cause an epidemic.
Yeah, that's true. Were you done, boss? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I would just add on to that. Our primary objective obviously is get the game played. And I agree with the medical task force and their recommendation. Let's see how the games emerge over time. We understand that the operations of concessions, restrooms, and things of that nature are going to be challenging. We know the bowl, sitting in the bowl won't be as challenging as the other operations. So let's mitigate the risk. Let's just make sure we got the games played and played in a safe way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Nathan Baird with Cleveland.com and Tim May on deck. Nathan?
Yeah, thanks. For Gene, I guess just how does the potential return of football change your budgetary perspective for this fall? We saw that the budgetary projections compared to last year, but also Ohio State hadn't yet announced any reductions or cuts or anything. So how does this potential income change things? And what might that income be?
Yeah, Nathan, we haven't done that work yet. And one of the reasons that, and I appreciate your persistence and that of others, this is a fluid year. So any numbers we give you now are going to change. So there was always a chance and a hope that we could play football again. And so having a chance to play football now, we'll start to get information from our television partners. So we have clarity on what our media rights revenue will be. We don't know that until we finish the schedule, and then we'll have some clarity around that. The NCAA Council is currently, I think, is today the 16th, by the way? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so today, the NCAA Council is voting on basketball, women's and men's basketball league, the start date. Will it be November 21? Will it be November 25th? Will it be 26 games? All those type of things are at play. So that helps us determine how many conference games or non-conference games we'll have and the revenue associated with it. So sure, there's no question there's a budgetary impact. But to begin to provide numbers that changes significantly based upon these decisions, in my view, it's just not purposeful. At the end of the day, we will have more clarity when we have information from our television partners and when we have information on basketball. So I'm hopeful when we have those decisions, we'll be able to better give you an answer, Nathan, around the total impact as opposed to bits and pieces. I hope that helps.
Next up, Tim May from Letterman Row with Clay Hall on deck. Tim?
Yeah, one quickie for Gene Smith and one quickie for President Johnson. Gene, what's not been clear to me, at least from watching the Big Ten teleconferencing now, is what will be the protocol set in place for when a game could be canceled during the course of a week? Could it be canceled as late as game day? What do you understand about the protocols there?
Yeah, that's something, Tim, that we have to discuss is that exact timing. I think a lot of it will depend upon what our infectious disease officers that will be designated on each individual campus, along with her or his colleagues at the institution in collaboration with the Big Ten office. We'll collaborate and make a decision. And as you saw in the medical protocols, there's the green, orange, red stoplight formula that will be a part of that. So we'll have to make a decision on the exact timing. Fortunately, as you know, we'll be testing every day. So we'll have information on the positivity rate of a team and its threat relative to providing a clean field. So at some point, we'll have to determine exactly what day and time we'll have to make those type of decisions. Great question.
And for President Johnson, what was the argument or the facts or whatever that came forth over the weekend, especially, that put everyone over the top as now you folks can proceed with a football season in late October? What do you remember as being the thing that put it over the top for the folks?
So I think what put it over the top, and it really is work over the last month, again, by the medical committee chaired by Dr. Borchers and athletic director Sandy Barber, is the following. So it's really the testing protocol. Think about it as two steps. In the first step, you get rid of all the candidates that are clearly negative. Then you focus on confirming any of the individuals that have been tested to see if they're positive. So you're doing something that's both highly accurate in specificity and sensitivity. You can guarantee a clean playing field. And I think that's, again, our guiding principle, every single individual, commissioner and peers, was safety first.
Thank you.
Next up, Clay Hall from WSYX TV with Jared Smalley on deck. Clay?
Jerry, one for each, if you don't mind, starting with Dr. Johnson. You were really thrown in the fire here in reporting, 2 weeks ago. What has been your experience and what has this said to you or taught you about this league that you've joined?
I love the league. Absolutely. I love Ohio State. And I think what it's taught me is that the Big Ten Conference wants to be a leader. And we've been a leader in the fall in many ways. In particular, we took the time to study a couple things that are really important. How can we get a clean playing field, like I said earlier? And then with myocarditis, we want to make sure that all individuals that might test positive, including our student athletes, before they return to working out, that they get tested to see if they have myocarditis. That's as important for our student body, our faculty and staff, as it is for our athletes. So I think there are those two, those sorts of things that we really needed to understand. But as a result, I think we've come out with a protocol, a process, and a way to play. And what I'm thrilled about is we get to play for all the marbles.
Thank you very much. Gene, from the day that we had that very unlikely conversation 3 weeks ago or whatever it was, and you were talking January and domes and trying to move the NFL draft, what got this group, what motivated this conference to begin dialogue and begin working to execute what happened today?
Well, it's a couple of things, Clay. Great question. And that time that you mean that time you ambushed me behind the whack with your camera? Is that what you mean? You guys jumped me?
The phone was in the left hip pocket and you were yelling at me. I didn't know what was going on.
You guys jumped me. But anyway, Clay, as the president shared and others, things evolved, science evolved. We learned a lot. The emergence of rapid testing was critical. But what's really critical was the structure we set up. We set up the medical task force with representatives from all the schools to collaborate and talk about how might we return to play. And at that particular time, we did not give them a specific date. We wanted to talk about whenever we return to play, how should we? Even in January, we would have needed these protocols. But what evolved was sharing of information. We were blessed to have Jim Borchers in that seat. I can't emphasize that enough because, as you all know, we felt here at The Ohio State University, we were doing things top of class, best of class. And that is because of all the medical advice that not just from Jim, but all of his colleagues at the institution. I can't share with you enough Dr. Kurt Daniels, and a cardiologist who helped us understand what we needed to do relative to checking cardiac activity after someone was positive with COVID. We implemented everything from a testing point of view. We went to the MRI right away. So those things we were able to share with our colleagues, and ultimately get a comfort level with them that we could do this the right way. So I can't compliment the medical task force enough. The other piece was talking with our television partners. The committee that Jim Phillips chaired was critical in trying to understand what was best for them. Moving to October 23rd, 24th, at the end of the day allows us to have contests that not only positions us for the college football playoff, but also gives us some opportunities with television that will be unique and different. And so we all just, the timing, and there wasn't one thing, Clay, but there was, I think that the collaboration, as Dr. Johnson shared about the Big Ten was critical in that process.
Thank you.
Next up, Jared Smalley from WCMH with Doug Lesmerises on deck. Jared?
Thanks, Jerry. Gene, two things for you. First of all, how quickly do you anticipate you'll be able to get to practice? I know Barry suggested in the news conference that teams could practice today. So that would be one. And then the second, you obviously had two very high-profile All-American caliber players announced to opt out of the season. How will your work and Ryan Day's work with them move forward here? They both left the option open. They could return. Could you let us into some insight of how that would work with players, talking to them, making sure they have the information to make the right decision for them?
Well, I'll probably defer those questions to Ryan later, but relative to practice, we're prepared. As you all know, we've been working out skill instruction, strength and conditioning, 12 hours a week. And tomorrow morning as athletic directors, we're going to reach, I believe, an agreement that is 20 hours a week, which is the normal 20 hours that you have during the season. Now that we have a season, we can revert to the 20 hours. So we'll probably move to that right away, but we'll talk about that in the morning. Relative to Sean and Wyatt, I had a lot of conversations with Wyatt over time, as did my wife, and so who knows what the big fella's thinking about out there on the West Coast. I texted him and told him, don't get burnt up, come home. There's a lot of fires out there, so who knows what he'll do. Then I had an opportunity to leave a message for Sean this morning, but I'll leave that question for Ryan later.
Thank you.
Next up, Doug Lesmerises from Cleveland.com with Rob Aller on deck. Doug?
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I apologize if this was covered at all before. I was finishing up on the Big Ten call. But obviously, you're talking a lot about a clean field and how much the daily testing matters. And obviously, you've made that clear how important that is. But I think everybody realizes probably there still are going to be Big Ten players who get this at some point this season. And we have seen reports from other conferences that a lot of players seem to be getting it. So I just want to make sure I understand, are you more comfortable than you were a month ago about what would happen to players who do get it? And I guess that's a myocarditis question, but anything else that might involve, has your thinking evolved on, because I don't think anybody believes you can be perfect in this. Are you just more comfortable with anybody, any player that gets it, because it probably will happen? And Kristina, maybe you could start with you and then Gene also.
Sure. Yeah. So, as you may know, my background is I'm an engineer and a scientist. So when I look at the data, first of all, what's changed is that the rapid testing of a few months ago, even when the whole COVID started, were very accurate with regard to false negatives, but not very accurate with regard to false positives. You have to have both. We're looking at tests now that are 98, 99% accurate. Now you may say, well, there's still 1 or 2%, but it's 1 or 2% of, there are criteria and thresholds of 5%, right? So on one day test, you can't be above 5% if you want to play. So what's 1% of 5%? If you look at a discrete math approach, it's 0. I do believe we will have clean playing fields with no athletes on those fields that have COVID. And I also think that, and my hat's off to, I know that Athletic Director Smith and also Coach Ryan gave a lot of credit to Dr. Borchers, which I do as well, but I also want to credit Coach Ryan and Gene Smith because, our tests have been very low, very, very low in that cohort. And as a campus, we saw initial spikes when the students came back, and it's been consistently going down. So yes, I do believe we can have a clean playing field.
Yeah, and I concur, Doug. I think we'll have a clean playing field. I'm not concerned about that. Will a student athlete in different places have become positive? No question about it, but we have a way to deal with that. What's nice about our environment is our student athletes, as you know, they're self-policing. They have created a bubble for themselves. And so I'm highly confident that our team will continue to do what they've been doing, and we'll work through that. But I'm hopeful that all the teams in our league can minimize the number of positives that they have.
And
Hey, by the way, Wyatt Davis calling, so I excuse me, I'll be right back.
So Doug, if I could just say one more thing, you mentioned if someone does test positive, there is a protocol within our protocols about when they can return, when they need to get tested for myocarditis. And if an athlete who gets COVID then does express myocarditis, then they're out for the season. So I think those sorts of things, the detail of the work that was done over the last month really gave comfort to myself and my peers, because number one, and this was said to start every single meeting, we care about the safety and the well-being of our student athletes. So it's a great question, and it's one that we really spend a lot of time going over. So thank you for that. And I want to thank everyone here. I need to depart for another meeting, but I really appreciate the opportunity to participate. And again, a great day for the Buckeye Nation. Thank you.
And before you leave, President Johnson, again, I think all the media here will thank you as well. I mean, I know this team of people, and they want to cover Ohio State and Big Ten football. So I know I speak for all of them, and thank you for your hard work.
Well, that and all our sports, of course, but thank you very much, and be well, and thanks for your leadership. Bye now.
Thank you, thank you, President Johnson. Moving on, next up is Rob Aller from the Columbus Dispatch with Patrick Murphy on deck. Rob? Rob, are you there? All right, we'll move over to Patrick Murphy with 24/7 Sports. Patrick?
Hey, Gene. Obviously, communication with Ryan and the team has been critical during this. How was the conversation when you were able to tell them that football played, and what do you think needs to happen for ramping up? I know you touched on that a little bit, but what's the conversation been like with him?
Well, I was with Ryan this morning when he set up a Zoom call with the players and coaches and support staff, and I'll let him kind of share their feelings, but they were related. President Johnson actually made the announcement. We invited her to be a part of it because of the great work that she did, and so she did that, and it was great. And so they applauded her, physically applauded her, so it was really good. So they're excited, and I'll when you get to Ryan, I'm sure he'll share a little bit more about that.
All righty. I am going to bring in Coach Day to the call. I was a little unsure of his schedule if we'd be able to have him on, but he's been able to join the call. So at this time, I'm going to ask Coach Day just to open up with just some general statements or comments, and then we'll jump into just a few more questions for both gentlemen. Coach, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thanks, Jerry. Yeah, just a few things. I just, very, very excited for our players, and we're in such a stronger place today than like Gene said on August 11th. And the three things: the data-driven approach, the testing, and then the cardiac protocol is really, excellent. And I'm excited for the players because they never lost faith, they never lost trust. Their behavior through this time has been excellent, and they never stopped fighting. And it was during a time that was very, very uncertain. It's not easy for 19, 20, 20-year-olds, young men to go through this, and they did. And the culture was never more evident, and couldn't be prouder of them. And now they get the opportunity that they asked for, which was to safely compete for a championship and to get back into the CFP picture, which so many of them, after they left the fields last year against Clemson, really, really wanted. And I'm also happy for Buckeye Nation. Their support during this time has been unbelievable. And so I want to thank them. And then also just a few more thank yous before we move on. First off, throughout the conference, to see the president's work, to see the athletic directors, Commissioner Warren, during this time come through with these protocols and allow us to, the opportunity to play here starting on October 24th has been amazing. And then, locally, Gene Smith and President Johnson, their leadership during this time of uncertainty has been excellent. It's not easy. It's easy to lead when things are going well. It's not as easy when things are going hard and there's uncertainty. And their leadership has been strong and something that I've learned from. And then Dr. Borchers, who's just, had him and his subcommittee did a great job during this time of putting this together and, again, allowing our athletes an opportunity to play safely. So looking forward to get back to work, to do things that we love, coach football, play football. And I know our guys are really, really excited as well.
Thank you very much, Coach. All right, we don't have a lot of time, folks, but I'll try to get to a few of you here. We'll lead off with Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch with Bill Landis on deck. Joey?
This is for Gene, but Gene, their players and parents for the last month have been pretty vocal about their desire to play. Justin Fields started the petition to play. Parents came out with demonstrations as well. Had there not been that type of reaction where clearly this team wanted to play, how much harder would have it made things? And did that give the conference and you guys maybe a sense of urgency to get a season back together?
I think we were obviously paying attention to the voices of the people we serve. We always do. But I think at the end of the day, we were laser focused, Joey. I can't tell you enough. Ryan has watched it. We were laser focused working with that medical task force. We were driven to make sure we address the concerns of our presidents. This is a shared governance system. 14 different presidents in different environments. Our footprint covers 11 states, and the challenges in those individual states are diverse. Iowa is having significant challenges with the positivity rate among its population. So the leadership in that state had significant challenges. So how do we make sure that we could carve out athletics, carve out football, and just focus on this? So, of course, the messages and things of that nature were important, but the reality is that we were really, really keenly driven to make sure that we have the protocols that help keep our young people safe.
And just one quick clarification on the protocols. The conference said it was going to provide financial assistance for the daily antigen testing. Is there a specific provider that's coming from, or who's providing the tests, I guess?
Yeah, the Big Ten will announce that, and yes, the conference will be coordinating the access and delivery of the tests to each individual school. So the conference will announce who the providers will be over time.
Thank you.
Next up, Bill Landis from The Athletic with Austin Ward on deck. Bill?
Thanks, Jerry. Ryan, I guess I'll follow up on Jared's question earlier for you. What is the situation with Wyatt and Sean? Do you have any indication of if they're able to come back if they wanted to, if they want to? And then I guess just the impact of that on your roster either way. I know you talked about this one time being a once-in-a-lifetime team. I'm sure you still feel that way, but those are two pretty big losses for you guys if they were to go declare for the draft and stay out.
Yeah, in communication with both of those guys and their families, they wanted to play. At the time, the information that they had, we weren't playing a season. Now it's changed. And I think this is a very, very unique time and, in our country's history and certainly in college football. So if they want to play, I believe 1,000% they should be allowed the opportunity to play. Now, this all just came out fast. It's happening and moving quickly. So we'll kind of let them kind of digest and see, in the conversations they're having with their families, what they want to do, and then we'll go from there. But they both shared with me that they want to play football. They want to be part of this team. They want to play with their teammates, and now the opportunity's here. And so, in terms of the details of all that, we'll figure that out, over the next couple of days.
And then when we spoke with you, when you started camp the first time, you talked about split squad practices and meeting in tents and trying to space guys out and all that kind of stuff, just to mitigate the spread within your own team if you had to. Does the daily testing change any of that? Are you able to meet more normally and practice more normally because of that?
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, the minute you get into the daily antigen testing, according to what Dr. Borchers and the medical subcommittee have reported to us, that ensures a clean field and a clean a clean building. So it certainly allows us more flexibility. We'll certainly still continue to be smart and social distance and use our masks and things like that, but it is a game changer.
Next up, Austin Ward with Letterman Row and Dave Biddle on deck. Austin?
Hey, Ryan, I know this is a celebratory day for you, that you get that chance to coach and play again this year. But is there any concern from a coaching side about nine straight weeks, no bye week, trying to cut it close with the college football playoff and, the difficulties that there may be? Do you have any concern about sort of this plan in particular that you guys will try to implement?
No, I don't. I mean, I think that, we're going to be ready to play on the 24th. The ramp up to that and the 20 hours and then putting on pads has been well thought out. And so, we'll be ready to go. And, we'll play with depth. There's going to be the times where we're going to have to play a lot of guys, but that's okay. I think that sweet spot of, 8-9 games is a good number. And keeping our guys healthy and going into the season is going to be important. These next few weeks are going to be critically important. Our behavior now is more important than ever. And so, I think that we're in a really good place, and I think that season is perfect, actually.
And after all you have gone through over the last 5+ weeks, to deliver some good news definitively to your team, what was that like this morning?
I was emotional. Yeah. We've taken a lot of tough news over the last couple months, so it was definitely emotional.
Thanks.
Next up, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports, and followed by Bill Rabinowitz. Dave, you're up. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. Hi, Ryan. Yeah, along those same lines that Austin was asking you about. I mean, you've really been fighting the good fight. You've really been out there. You've been outspoken. You've been classy about it, though. How gratifying is this for you, Coach? And just with as much as you guys have been getting jerked around, is it still a little bit surreal for you yet? Has it sunk in yet?
I just think that's what 2020's been. It's just a time of uncertainty. It hasn't been easy for anybody. But to be able to look these guys in the eye and let them know that they have an opportunity to play and that their fight, they have something to show for it now. All the work that they've put in, now they have a chance to go play. And they never wavered, and they just kept swinging. And that was our mindset during this whole time, is just keep fighting. You just never know what tomorrow's going to bring. And there was faith without results. I mean, we didn't have a target, but they just kept working. They just kept going forward. And again, I can't say enough about our leadership, all the way from the president to Gene to our seniors, to our captains, to see Justin Fields get on Good Morning America and the leadership he showed. Our team is stronger right now than it was on August 11th for going through this. And our young guys have seen what real leadership is. And now go back on the field and play, it is an amazing feeling. But now we got to get back to work. We'll enjoy this for a day, but then we got a huge task ahead of us. We got to get back on the field and go play.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Justin real quick. I mean, he, of anybody, he could have said, I'm sitting out the season. He's going to be a top 5 pick at the very least, you would think. But he's out there leading the charge, with the petitions and everything like that. Just speak on his leadership and just how proud you are of Justin.
Yeah, well, what can you say about Justin Fields? The way that he's gone about his business, the way that he's been a leader, the way that he's spoken up, been classy about it, his work ethic in this offseason. If you ever get a chance to ask Coach Mick what it's been like, it's been off the charts. He's changed his diet. He's put extra work in. And then just to see his leadership and the way he's handled it, I can't say enough about who he is. And the fact that he's going to have an opportunity to play with the rest of these seniors. Everybody has their own story, from Jonathan Cooper to Justin Hilliard to Josh Meyer, Sean Wade, Justin Fields. I mean, you can go through the list of guys. There's a lot of them out there. And now they have an opportunity to go play. Now they can go finish this thing the right way, and it's they kind of control their destiny as they move forward. And that's all they ever asked. But they also wanted it safely. It wasn't like they were being reckless, and they wanted to be able to do this safely. And so, because of all the hard work of everybody in the conference, now they have the opportunity to do that.
Thanks, Coach. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Next up, Bill Rabinowitz with the Columbus Dispatch and Doug Lesmerises on deck. Bill?
Hi, Ryan. You've been through an incredible 3 years here. Highs and all this tumultuousness. What was the lowest point for you? How discouraging did it get when it really looked like there was no chance for you guys playing? How'd you deal with that?
Yeah, I would say the week following the 11th was probably the hardest. And it wasn't when I went home. It was when I, looked those guys in the eye, and that was the hardest part. And called parents and got on Zoom calls and let them know that we weren't playing, and that was really, really hard. And just going home and telling my son we're not playing football this year. All those things were just really hard. But listen, you wake up the next day and you figure out ways to continue to lead. And that's, again, going back to what leadership is. It's during times like this that when things are hard, when there's just uncertainty, and you just keep pushing forward. And what I talked to the team about over the last couple of weeks is that, you're going to learn a lot of life lessons through this. And the life lesson that I talk to them all the time about is life is about ups and downs, like you were mentioning, Bill. Like when things go well, go enjoy it and go get all you can get. Enjoy it, go get it all. But when things aren't going very well, you just hang on. And you just manage through it, and you hang on, and you trust the people that you're around, because eventually it's going to turn and it's going to start going back up. And that's all we were doing. We were just hanging on. And now it's turning, and now we're starting to get, we're not there yet. We're just starting to move back up, but there's life, and this thing's starting to turn. So I hope they can use that as a life lesson moving forward.
And what is the challenge in getting this ramped up in time to start in roughly a month, 5 weeks, whatever it is? And do you feel like this team, you described as a once-in-a-lifetime team potentially, to have a second chance, how confident are you that your team is going to seize that? How good do you feel about what this season is going to be?
I could probably answer that better in a couple of weeks when we get back on the field. So much of it's going to have to do with, our guys, we've been working out and we've been practicing and doing those things, not with pads on or anything like that. But it's different when you have a season. Being right at body weight, making sure that you're taking care of all your stuff recovery-wise, making sure all the little things are checked off is different than just kind of going out there and practicing. And so now it's all ramped up. And so I can probably have a better feel for that over the next couple of weeks. We do have a mature group, so expecting this thing to ramp up real fast with everybody. You're just going to see a different look. People are going to be walking down the hallways different. They're going to be bouncing around on the field different. It just has a totally different look to it, when you're playing for something. So, and we'll see how that goes over the next couple of weeks.
Thanks, Ryan.
Hey, Jerry, before I jump off, let me tag on to that and compliment Ryan. And I think all of you can harken back to the time when we asked him to step in and lead our program during the suspensions. And we watched how he led at that particular time. And he held the team together in a time when you could have had disruptions within the team. And that never happened. He led it excellently. And he did the same thing here. I saw the emotional ups and downs, to your question, Bill, that he endured along the path. And he never, ever wavered in his ability to lead and hold our team together. And so I just want to share that with you, all of you, because I think you all see it as I do. And I want to thank him for that publicly, because at the end of the day, as I share with my colleagues, athletic directors, and even the presidents, our coaches were boots on the ground. They were the ones that had to hold the confidence of our individual players and their families. And Ryan did a great job with that. And I want to thank the players and their parents for holding on. And as I leave, one of the things that I wanted to stress that we're going to need your help with, to be quite honest. When we start playing games, even if we had a smaller number of fans in the stands, I think you all know that there'll be watch parties everywhere. And those are super spreaders. And we're going to need help to try and encourage people to follow the protocols. And whether or not you believe it, you are influencers in this space. And so I would ask you to have that social consciousness with us. Use your platform to try and encourage people to tailgate and wherever they are in their large gatherings, watching games and all that excitement, to do it responsibly. We're going to need your help. And so if you can help us with that, I want to give a shout out to the IFC, the Interfraternity Council presidents. The Greek system, they have embraced the idea of trying to do that. And thankful that they as a group have come forward to help. So anyway, got to go. Thanks everyone. Appreciate it. And thank you, Ryan. And thank you, Jerry.
Great. Thank you very much, Gene. And we're going to wrap this up with one final question from Doug Lesmerises from Cleveland.com for Coach. Doug?
Hey, Ryan, we know how much has changed for everybody over the last month, but you had a really good plan about January, the day after the announcement of the cancellation. When did you really begin to believe that October was possible? And when did it sort of become a focus for you that it felt like, hey, this is the thing that we really would prefer now?
Yeah, Doug, I learned just like you. I just make a million calls to our medical personnel and the experts that we have here on campus, which is unbelievable at Ohio State. Just asking so many questions, and the information that I got when everything changed was the daily rapid test, and once that changed, that was the game changer for us. And then I just again, can't say enough about how the subcommittees got together, worked really hard to get this all put together since that came out, and that to me was the game changer.
And Ryan, I think we've all talked a lot about, we know what Ohio State is in the Big Ten, right? Both as a football program and as an athletic department. Nobody is going to pretend otherwise, that Ohio State's the leader in the Big Ten in a lot of ways. Do you feel like Ohio State in this circumstance used its influence, came to a decision that you thought as Ohio State was best, both for Ohio State in the Big Ten, and then really worked for this? And do you think Ohio State's influence was a factor in the conference coming to this decision?
This was a conference decision. This is, one thing I've learned in being in this conference is that we all need each other. And some of the conversation that I've had with some of the other coaches, daily conversations with James Franklin, daily conversations with Pat Fitzgerald and Paul Christ, and just different guys in the conference, that we all need each other. And, I thought the conference did a great job of kind of galvanizing here and coming up with a great plan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Great. Coach, thank you so much. Look forward to having you on these a lot more in the near future to talk about football. Thanks again so much for your time. For you members of the media, thank you so much for being on the call. I'll start to work on a football practice media schedule. I don't know where we are yet with regard to that, but I'll start to put together a media schedule, and we'll start to have some regular calls moving forward as we proceed. So thank you so much for being on the call today, and we again look forward to speaking with you a lot more in the coming weeks. Thanks so much. Have a great day.